Are you a kids yoga teacher who would like to work in schools but are wondering how to manage such large groups of children? Or perhaps this is something that you already do, but you don't feel confident with it. If this is you, then you might find this video really useful for you today, as I'm sharing my top tips for teaching large groups. So hi, I'm Julia Hankins. I'm Children's Wellbeing Specialist and the founder of Wellbeing Adventurers. I'm also a mentor, a trainer, an educator for kids yoga teachers, and my mission is to upskill and empower children's wellness practitioners, helping them feel confident, organised, and ready to share their unique gifts with the world, making a positive difference in even more children's lives. So today, as I've just said, I'm sharing my top tips for teaching large groups. This is because it's a question that I get asked quite often by other kids yoga teachers in some Facebook groups and other communities that I'm in. And I actually got asked just recently, how do you teach such a large class and keep them all involved and focused? So yeah, most of the classes that I teach are within curriculum time, within the school day, and with classes of approximately 30 children. So my preferred setup is in a hall with 30 mats, and we're all, in a circle. That's my favourite setup. But I feel like I should share here that my background is in education. So before doing what I do now, I was a primary school teacher. And since 1997, I've been working with large groups of children. So I'm really confident working with children. For 5 years of that, I was also a school senior leader. So I was regularly leading assemblies and things like that. So large groups of children do not faze me at all. So yeah, that's something I should kind of preface what I'm about to share with you, because this isn't just something that's like, oh yeah, lots of children is totally fine. My background is in dealing with lots of children. So that's where that comes from. But that said, teaching kids yoga to large groups of children is a whole other kettle of fish. That's a really weird phrase, isn't it? Kettle of fish. Don't know what that even comes from. But it's different because the relationship between the yoga teacher and the pupils is very different to the typical teacher relationship. And it actually took me quite a while to adjust to being different with large groups of children. However, I do much prefer being Julia, our wellbeing teacher, than Mrs. Hankins, which is what I was before. It felt far more formal and less fun. So I said I'd give you some tips, and now I'm just waffling on. So let's get on to it. The first thing, have a clear and simple plan. So it might sound obvious, but taking a quality amount of time to create the plan for the lesson and ensuring that you know it well means that you will feel calmer. So I prefer a less is more approach when it comes to planning. I don't use too many words on my actual plan so that I can refer to it quickly and see what's coming next without having to read lots and lots and refer lots. If you'd like a copy of my actual planning grids that I use, then I'm going to include them below. There's some free access to there, and you just click on it. You can make a copy of the Google Doc, really simple and easy. And there's also a couple of videos that I've already done about planning, so I'll copy those down below also. And if you are really struggling and don't know what it is to teach, and that's a bit bigger than the remit of this small training here, then I highly recommend the training Structure for Success, which is an e-course. It's going to be increasing in price really soon as some adjustments are going to be made to that e-course. So now's a really good time to get your hands on it. Structure for Success is the e-course for you if you'd like to know what to teach in these lessons. So that's my first one, planning. The second one is set up your space. So ideally, it's nice to set up your space before the children come into the space. And whenever I've had to set up with the children there, it's always a little bit chaotic. I find that I'm dysregulated, and that really impacts effect upon the lesson. It might not be true for you though, everybody's different, and I am neurodivergent, so that may play into it too. Maybe if setting up with the children alongside you is totally fine for you, then that's all well and good. Obviously ignore me, but I'm just sharing my personal experience that when I set up before the lesson, before the children have come into the space, and I give myself a little moment of calm before, it really sets the tone for the lesson, and I find that my class runs a lot more smoothly. So another tip is to use mats. Or some other way of identifying personal space if you're not able to use mats for some reason, and use them one per child. So I have heard other kids yoga teachers say that it isn't necessary, but for me, the lessons that I teach, when I have a designated space for each child, the lesson goes a whole lot better than those where the space is less defined. Why is this? Well, when children have a designated space that's clearly defined, they find it easier to concentrate. They're less likely to be distracted by others or distracted by themselves wanting to communicate with the other person. They feel safer, they feel more confident. And I always just think, imagine if you went to an adult yoga class yourself and there was no mats, and the person one side felt too close, and the person the other side of you had no awareness of their own space and were like swinging their arms in your face. And it sounds horrible, doesn't it? That's because it is horrible. And so let's not do that to our kids. Use mats. Another tip is have clear expectations and rules. Now, this is something I've talked about a lot. There's a video called Boost Behaviour, which talks about this in far more detail. I'll include it below. I've also got a free guide to my own rules that I use in my classes, and I will pop that below. And if you find managing behavior and boundaries and rules and things really tricky in your classes, and the e-course Tame the Crowd Without Being Loud is the one for you. Again, this one's going to go up in price soon, so now's a really good time to get your hands on Tame the Crowd Without Being Loud. So that's having expectations and rules. Another tip of mine is introduce yourself every single time. Have an introduction every single class. So no matter how long you've been working with a year group, and no matter how well you think they know you, introduce yourself and your expectations and what the children can expect from the lesson every single time. So explaining who you are, explaining what's going to happen in the lesson, and explaining what you expect from the children. And that just helps everybody to kind of remind themselves, oh yeah, here we are, this is where we are. It's kind of like a kind of orientation of themselves, because the children have just come from a different place. It's kind of letting them settle. Another tip of mine is to consider your props. So make sure that firstly you have enough props for the group. Obviously, with bigger groups of children, you can't have them all waiting for one prop. Make sure that they're appropriate for the space, the age group, and the activity, and share some prop rules around them before they even touch them. So again, I talk much more about this on the video called Top Prop Tips, and I'll link it below. You can also get my free guide where I share my 10 favourite props and how I use them in my class. That's called Top of the Props. How to record Top of the Props. And also there's an e-course that if you really want to go a bit deeper into using props in your lessons, how to use them to support and extend and excite the children in your class, check out Props Like a Pro. Again, this is an e-course. Again, it's going up in price really soon. Another tip is to use cards. So I have my own cards I've created. Obviously, you can get those, but this works with other cards too. I find that having images supports the learning and helps children to remember the poses, helps you to structure your class, and they're fun as well to use. So I've got some tips on how to use props in your classes, which I will put a link to that video. And I've also got a little freebie that gives you some kind of tips on using the cards. And also I've got a Captivate with Cards training and resource bundle where you can get all of my cards. I do find using cards as an image really supports the learning, especially if they're big cards and the children can see them. It really kind of helps to lead the lesson in a much more structured way. Another tip is to start at the side. So this is something really small and it feels like I shouldn't mention it because it's really not a big deal, or it doesn't sound like a big deal, but I really noticed a difference when I don't do this. So I'm just going to share it with you now. So I always try to greet the class as they're coming into the hall. I mean, that doesn't happen every single time because sometimes timings overlap, but I generally try to meet them. And get them to sit at the edge of the hall. And in some of my schools, I'm really lucky and they've got benches at the edge. And that's just perfect because I get children to sit on the benches. And then when they're there, they take off their shoes. I introduce myself. I introduce the rules. I introduce the props of the lesson and talk about the rules of these. And then only when I've done all of those things and I've set the tone, only then do we go to the mat space, and that's when we actually start the practical elements of the lesson. And that means that when we do go to the mats, we've just got a really clear shared understanding of what's expected of me, what's expected of the children, and all of that jazz. So starting at the side of the hall or the space is really, really useful. Another thing that I like to do is, and I think is really important when you've got big groups, is to be interactive. And it can seem quite hard to do this when you've got lots of children, but to me this is crucial, and I use lots of opportunities to get the children to interact within the lesson. So this could be taking turns to lead the group with a warm-up dance. It could be picking a soft toy or a card from a bag, maybe sharing an idea with a partner or a group, everybody doing a breathing technique or a pose at the same time by saying 1, 2, 3, and we all do it together. Or we could be creating something on their own or with a partner or with a small group, but just basically them being involved and them guiding what's happening and giving their own like thoughts and ideas. And so finally, I think really it's all about you. The adult in the room is the person who's really going to shape what happens, and your energy is going to be really impacting the vibe of the room, the energy of the room, the energy of the children. If you're anxious, the children are going to pick up on that. If you're confident, the children will be led by you. If you're irritable, I bet you this is going to play out in some way. And so the best tip that I can give you to have a successful kids yoga class with a large group is to manage your own energy, nervous system, mood first, and all else will come second to that. So I could talk all day about this because it's what I do and I love it, but I'm going to stop there because I want to respect your time too. But I'm going to link in all of these things that I've been discussing. I'm going to link them in the comments, and I just want to let you know that all of the trainings that I mentioned are part of a package called the School Yoga Teachers Bundle, and that's got in it Tame the Crowd Without Being Loud, Props Like a Pro, Structure for Success, yoga club for schools, and it's also got a document bundle in there with all of my documents that I use in schools as a kids yoga teacher. So it's worth having a look at that bundle. If you feel like some of these things are useful to you, then that's probably the cheapest way for you to get your hands on all of that, because it's all bundled together and a cheaper price than buying all of them individually. If you'd like some individual support from me, then why not book a one-to-one session with me? I offer mentoring sessions that are of different lengths, so 1 hour or 90 minutes. And I also offer a 6-month mentoring program. And actually, I decided that I would do a little special on that at the moment. So if you're thinking that in January you want to really work on your business and there's some changes you want to make, and 2025 is going to be your year, in your business, and there's things that you want to put into place, then what you can do is you can buy the my 6-month mentoring program now. You can have your first meeting with me in January, and we can work together from January until June, and that's with your monthly meetings with me, and then all of your support in between sessions, like emails, WhatsApp support. But you can access all of the courses for free immediately. So that means that you've got from now until our meeting to basically snaffle up all of my courses, resources, and trainings, so that you've got something to build on in that time. So that's giving you an extra month's access. You're getting all the stuff a month early. And so anybody who is working on a mentor program with me not only gets to access all of my resources, all of my e-courses for the time that they're working with me, but they get that access for life. So if in 2 years' time you want to refresh your mind about something, it's still there in your dashboard waiting for you. So if you've got any questions about that, don't hesitate to email me, julia@juliahankins.co.uk. If you'd love to work with me, that link's in the box below as well. And if you've got a question that you'd like me to answer, just email me, and I'll answer your question either here in a video, or I always respond to my emails personally anyway. So I hope you found that really useful, and I would love to know your thoughts. And obviously these are my own experiences. I'm not the only person who teaches large groups, so I'd be really interested to know, what do you do when you're teaching large groups? What are your top tips too? Is there anything I mentioned that you disagree with, or is there something that I didn't mention that you do that you'd like to share? I'd always really love to know. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll put all of the links down below.